Welcome back to Madman Review. So, guess what? Due to popular demand, we're rolling out episode number 5 of our hit series, Deadly Shootings, where good guy stops bad guy. You guys just can't seem to get enough of these thrilling stories. As always, a massive shout out and a heartfelt thanks to Heritage.com and the Daily Signal. They do an incredible job with their monthly compilations of defensive gun use stories. And let's not forget Amy Swear. She's absolutely amazing in what she does. In today's episode, we've got 8 brand new edge-of-your-seat stories where a good guy with a gun steps in and saves the day. These are the kind of real-life heroics that often go unnoticed. And here's something you might find interesting. These stories rarely make it to the big news networks. You're unlikely to hear about them on channels like CNN or NBC. Why, you ask? Because of George Soros, that's why. It's a bit of a head-scratcher, huh? But it's worth noting that some of these stories might have been covered by your local news channels. So with all that said, let's jump right into these incredible stories and get the full scoop. July 3rd, Surprise, Arizona. So, in Surprise, Arizona, there was this tragic shooting at a party late Sunday night. The Surprise Police Department just filled in some of the details, and it's a real heartbreaker. The guy who started shooting first was 46-year-old Jason Hunt. He was at this party near Bell and Reams Road, just off the US 60, when suddenly things turned chaotic. Hunt, who was reportedly a U.S. Army sergeant and a recruiter, just opened fire. Other people who were at the party returned fire, neutralizing this idiot. Neighbors said Hunt wasn't even supposed to be at the party. He just showed up, grabbed some food and drinks, and then, out of nowhere, started blasting away.
I really enjoyed it when we got together. He was just a great guy.
The worst part, there were kids around when all this went down. Hunt, along with 2 other people, unfortunately ended up dead. 4 others got hospitalized, but there's no word on how they're doing now. Ruth Gonzalez, Navarro's wife, sharing this chilling account, she was sitting there when Hunt walked in, sat across from her, and just started shooting. She had to crawl to safety. Hunt was a total stranger to them, didn't even say a word before he started firing. Now, Gonzalez is left grieving her husband, a father of her 4 kids. She's calling for justice, but knows it won't bring him back. It's sad how it all went down, but she and her kids are still alive. So there's that.
Now, detectives say all of the weapons recovered from the home were handguns. They are still looking into a possible motive.
August 16, Lexington, South Carolina. There's this wild story that's been making the rounds. It's about a guy who had to defend his home and his family. Turns out the law's on his side. Here's the scoop. Early one morning, like 5 a.m. early, the Lexington police get this frantic call about a home invasion happening right then and there. When they show up, they find a dude in the driveway, shot up but alive. His wife's there too. And get this, their kids were in the house when all this went down. Inside the house, the cops find 33-year-old Matthew Lewis Stanfield from Colorado. And he's not just injured, he's dead. Shot multiple times. Now here's where it gets even crazier. Stanfield, the dead guy, is actually the brother-in-law. He's had a beef with his sister, the homeowner, and had threatened her before. That morning, he tries busting into their place. First the front door, then the garage, and finally crashes through a side door. The husband, who's now in a full-on home defense mode, gets into a shootout with Stanfield. Both guys get hit, but the husband's injuries aren't deadly. The police dug up some seriously alarming stuff about Stanfield. The guy brought a rifle, had a bag loaded with extra ammo, a ballistic vest, and more. They even found flex cuffs and a metal chain on him, like he was planning something big.
It's a really quiet neighborhood, I haven't heard anything that would be, shocking except for this. This is the first thing, and I walk the neighborhood in the evenings, and you just don't see that much traffic. And in the last 5 minutes, I've seen a dozen cars come through.
In the end, the 11th Circuit solicitor checked out all the evidence and called it a justified act of self-defense. August 20th, Ontario, Oregon. This happened for real on a Saturday in Ontario, just north of the city limits. A home intruder named Terry Lee Martz, a 67-year-old guy with a seriously shady past, decides to pull a home invasion. Now, Martz isn't just your average Joe. He's been on Idaho's most wanted list since October 2020, with a rap sheet that includes kidnapping, rape, and sexual abuse of a minor. Plus, he's been dodging parole and failing to register as a sex offender. Fast forward to the invasion. It's around noon. This guy just waltzes into someone's home through an unlocked door. Inside, the lady of the house is just chilling, reading in the living room while her husband's out in the shed. When the husband comes back inside, he finds Martz in the kitchen, pointing a gun at him. Get this, Martz demands the guy make him a sandwich. Yeah, a sandwich. After making it, the husband checks on his wife, tells her they've got a guest, then sneaks off to grab his shotgun. Things get real intense real fast. The two men end up wrestling with their guns, and during the scuffle, the shotgun goes off, hitting Martz right in the chest area. The homeowners manage to restrain and disarm him and then call the cops. Paramedics come with the police, and Martz is carted off to the hospital, expected to survive his injuries. August 15th, Milwaukee. Man, you've got to hear about this intense situation that went down in Milwaukee. So this mom, just doing her everyday thing, taking a shower, when all of a sudden her kids, 12 and 14, start screaming from the living room. Without missing a beat, she dashes out of the shower, grabs her gun from the bedroom, and confronts this intruder in the hallway. Here's the wild part. Her two pit bulls were already on the guy, but he just wouldn't back down. So she did what she felt she had to do, shot him multiple times, her neighbors calling her a hero for it. The mom described the guy as being in his late 30s and acting all kinds of crazy. The Milwaukee police haven't said much about him, just that they picked her up for questioning, but let her go a few hours later. They're keeping mum on the details, and the whole thing's headed to the district attorney's office.
And everything else that's taking place in the world, I mean, you better protect yourself. To be honest, you have to.
Now, the mom and her kids are pretty shaken up, understandably. They're planning to find a new place to live soon. Here's the kicker. The mom bought the gun a decade ago after finding some random guy snoozing under her son's bed. Creepy, right? She always hoped she'd never have to use it, but when push came to shove, she knew she could pull the trigger to protect her kids.
It was an act of self-defense. Somebody comes in your house, what do you call it? Yeah.
August 22nd, Chicago. Early Monday morning, right before 6 a.m. in Chicago's Lawndale neighborhood, a 56-year-old guy finds himself in a real tight spot. He's just sitting in his car on West Arlington Street when suddenly this car with 3 teenagers pulls up. One of these teens hops out, points a gun at the guy, and demands his stuff. Talk about a rude awakening, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Our guy in the car isn't just any regular Joe. He's packing heat with an FOID and a concealed carry license. So what does he do? He doesn't just hand over his belongings. Nope. Instead, he pulls out his own gun. A struggle kicks off, and he starts firing. The teen's car tries to make a getaway but ends up crashing nearby. The aftermath? Pretty messy. The driver, a teen, gets a gunshot wound to the head and ends up in critical condition at Mount Sinai Hospital. Another kid in the back seat breaks his leg in the crash, and the third? He's found a few blocks away, shot in the shoulder and in serious condition at Stroger Hospital.
Scary. This is a very frightening time, and, I'm considering to move.
All these suspects are young, like between 15 and 18 years old. As for the guy they tried to rob, he walks away without a scratch. It's a crazy story. One of those where you're glad the good guy's okay, but you also can't help but think about how young those kids were. August 7th, Middleton, Ohio. An Amazon delivery driver had a real intense day on the job this past Sunday. The driver, Gino Grove, a family man with 3 kids, wasn't taking any chances. Middleton Police Chief David Burke said Grove was clearly scared out of his mind. So what does he do? He pulls out a gun and shoots the knife-wielding guy, Christopher Roberts, right in the leg. But here's how Grove tells it. He's minding his own business when this dude comes sprinting at him, screaming, "Knife fight, knife fight." And oh boy, he wasn't kidding. Roberts was holding this big blade and had this wild look in his eyes. Grove's like, "Stop, stop, stop." But Roberts keeps coming at him, knife in hand, eyes all bugged out. So Grove shoots him in the leg, but Roberts barely even flinches. Grove was absolutely terrified and was just trying to make it home to see his family again. "If I didn't have my firearm, I wouldn't be here," he said. "My family would be planning my funeral."
I had to, fend for my life at that moment because the guy was attacking me with a knife. He came at me with a knife. If I didn't have my firearm, I wouldn't be here today. I know that for a fact. I would not be here today. My family would be planning my funeral.
After getting shot, Roberts ran off but was eventually found by the cops and taken to Atrium Medical Center. He's now facing some serious charges. August 3rd, Indianapolis. It's one of those crazy early morning stories. So it's just before 4:30 a.m. and the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department gets this call about a shooting over on Tapp Drive, right near Cumberland. Turns out to be a self-defense situation during an apparent robbery attempt. A homeowner's daughter and her boyfriend are just chilling in their car when suddenly at least two suspects yank open the car door trying to rob them at gunpoint. These two victims, they didn't want their faces on camera, but they shared that this whole terrifying ordeal lasted just a few seconds, fast and frightening for sure. When the police get there, they find this 16-year-old guy, Armani Presswood, already down and out, later pronounced dead right there. Turns out, he was armed. Here's what went down. According to the cops, Presswood and maybe a couple more guys approach the car. Shots get fired, and Presswood ends up getting hit.
It's very scary. All this shooting that's going on, and now it's in my neighborhood.
It's just crazy out here, so you have to protect yourself.
IMPD's thinking it's all due to an attempted robbery gone south.
Both victims were questioned and then released by police. Police have not yet arrested any additional suspects who may have fled the scene.
July 17, Greenwood, Indiana. A regular Sunday at the Greenwood Park Mall turned into a nightmare when a gunman started shooting in the food court. But here's the twist. This story could have been a whole lot worse if not for a 22-year-old guy named Elijah Dickin. Dickin, just out for a mall trip with his girlfriend, was packing a concealed pistol, all legal and above board. When this gunman, armed with a rifle, starts his rampage, Dickin jumps into action almost instantly. The guy's quick thinking and action made him an instant hero. Greenwood's police chief, Jim Eisen, is all praise for Dickin. He's calling him a hero who acted with bravery and skill, saving who knows how many lives. Despite having no formal training in law enforcement or the military, Dickin handled the situation like a pro. The chief says Dickin was proficient and tactically sound, managing to hit the gunman from a distance. While taking down the shooter, he even motioned for others to get out safely behind him. The whole shootout was over in just 2 minutes. Before that, the gunman, identified as 20-year-old Jonathan Douglas Sapperman, had spent over an hour in a mall restroom assembling his weapon. Dickin, after stopping the shooter, handed himself over to the mall security and worked with the police, even getting handcuffed and questioned at first. Chief Eisen summed it up. Many more people would have died last night if not for a responsible armed citizen. Sapperman, the shooter, was a bit of a loner, recently evicted, and had been practicing at a shooting range for the last 2 years. Tragically, 3 people were killed, including a married couple, and 2 others were wounded. But thanks to Dickin, it wasn't the massacre it could have been. Just a regular guy at the mall making a huge difference.
We can handle this type of thing, and we've done it once, we've done it right. We've got to continue to train, we've got to continue to learn, we've got to...
That was our Rafael Sanchez reporting. The Greenwood Police Department issued a 35-page after-action report detailing ways to better improve a response to a mass shooting. One finding is that officers from other departments bearing rifles need to wear department-issued clothing to prevent being mistaken as a possible suspect.